Just saw mother walk into a classroom with a handheld radiation meter and proceed to tell the teacher that little Billy needs to sit in the back corner of the classroom because of the toxic school Wi-Fi radiation. What other batshit things have you seen heard of that these helicopter moms do? I work in HR at a large telecommunications company. We usually sit in the conference room and can hear the interview candidates while they are waiting in the lobby. This poor guy was probably 19 or 20 and his mother wanted to go into the interview with him. We actually had to ask her to wait outside the lobby, because even after being asked to sit down she said it was her right to be in there. WTF. Guy didn't end up getting the job, and she later called and asked where she could send an appeal letter. Wish I had saved that letter. It was intense. That poor guy. No one is going to hire him if his mom keeps pulling that crap. I made a really great friend in high school. He and I were as thick as thieves. Early on in the friendship, my parents took us to a movie. I don't remember the movie, but the start of it got delayed by technical difficulties by about 20 minutes. My parents called from their cell to let my friend's mother know, but only got the voicemail. Thinking that would suffice, we all proceeded to have a good time. Fast forward to the end of the movie, my mom turns her cell phone on and discovers her voicemail box is suddenly full. 20 I believe was her limit. All of them were my friend's mother calling pleading for us to return her son, and she would pay any amount we demanded, and that if we called back soon she wouldn't go to the police. She literally had thought we kidnapped him. Suffice to say, when we got him home only 20 minutes later than planned, the conversation was rather awkward. My dad figured out exactly how long it took to walk home from school, as in literally walked it himself, and then gave me exactly that long to get home every day. If I was more than 5 minutes late I got a beating for fricking around. Then they got mad that I had no friends, and after a protracted argument and fight I got an extra 15 minutes to make friends after school. That winter, I got in a snowball fight and was having fun and didn't realize I'd gone a little too long. So dear old dad drove to my school and started wandering around, bellowing my name until he found me. That was a blast. I believe this is the year after he stood in front of my entire class and told them to start being nice to me. I'm so glad I changed schools every year. There was a girl in my 5th grade class whose mother would take an hour out of her day to come supervise recess. Every 5 minutes, she'd blow a whistle and go, "Emmy, it's time for your shade break," and, just like clockwork, Emmy would have to go sit in the shade for 5 minutes. This crap got really annoying when we would play team sports. No one wanted Emmy on their team. Went to a play group for children with special needs involved with infant development. Talked to a mom after I noticed that she wouldn't let her son off the mat he was playing on. Chit-chatting, all the while she was stopping her kid from going off the mat. When I said something along the lines of, "Wow, your son really wants off that mat," she replied deadpan with, "Well, he was a preemie, so I got to protect him from the world. My daughter is blind, has albinism and nystagmus." She was rolling, yelping and climbing up everything like a spider monkey. Ugh. I'm curious as to how the nystagmus would affect her if she's already blind. When I worked at a coffee shop, a mother, with the most helium-like whiny freaking voice imaginable, came and ordered a 7-step customized drink, and threw a fit when we just asked her to repeat it. Oh no, am I the bad guy? I'm sorry, I thought you'd be able to speak English. Then she goes, in the same whiny begging voice, "Can my son have a job?" I hand her a job application. He already sent one in. "Can you just hire him? Hey, I don't want whipped cream on that, so can he have a job?" I tell her if he's sent in an application, he'll get a call when the manager looks through the stack. We had like 20 applications at any given point, so he's just going to be one in the pile. Yep, that's not gonna work. He's a great kid, just freaking hire him. Just to get rid of her, I write down her son's name and say I'll look into it. I hand her her drink, and she leaves. My manager, who heard her screeching voice from the back room, immediately calls me over to see that kid's name. He digs through the pile of applications and immediately shreds the kid's application. His only words, "If we hire him, his mother's going to be here all the time. Good, his mom is going to ruin his career choices." I once interviewed someone for an entry-level job. The next day I got a follow-up call from his mother. This kid had not made the cut. He didn't interview confidently and didn't enunciate very well. Not good for a call center job. But I hadn't passed that on to HR yet. I told this woman a little white lie though. I informed her that he had been in the running, but since he can't be counted on to do his own follow-up, he's clearly not the kind of employee I want. Had a helicopter mom who became one of the middle school's lunch monitors in order to help her kid make more friends. She would carry around candy and would only give it out to people that were friends of her child, literally denying others if she didn't know them. Ah yes. Bribery to make friends. That's surely a good way to show your kids. You haven't seen anything until you've seen helicopter hockey parents. They don't only hover over their kids, they encourage horrible sportsmanship. A few years ago when my goalie brother was playing squirt AA, so about age 9 to 10, the opposing team equipped themselves with the age-old strategy of run the goalie. The coaches were in on this. The parents cheered bloodthirstily whenever these little jackasses rammed into my brother, and they kept this up more than they attempted to score. My brother had had enough. Poor kid snapped and walloped the next boy who skidded into his crease, the net area, which was totally justifiable by that point. This redneck looking woman and her husband immediately got up, started screeching about their poor precious Joey and get that goalie out of there. Ref eventually their whole cheering system was on their feet and yelling out obscene crap about taking my brother out. To 10-year-olds. They all got escorted out by security. You cannot make this crap up. In high school I had a friend with a super helicopter mom. He couldn't go anywhere without his mom, so she would just sit in her van outside of his friends' houses. Seriously. Eventually he started rebelling and drinking. He got drunk, went in the back of a pickup truck being driven by a drunk driver, and the truck crashed. He's dead, and I honestly feel that if his mom wasn't so overprotective he wouldn't have done stupid crap that ended up killing him. We decided to teach the Hunger Games in English last year. I had a few parents raise concerns because they had heard a few rumors, but it was nothing a quick conference and a little reassuring couldn't fix, until Mrs. Bickerstaff happened. Now, Mrs. Bickerstaff had an inflated sense of self-importance to begin with, a housewife who, with complete seriousness, signs her emails Mrs. Nalanda Charlene Bickerstaff, ESQ. Type of self-important. She not only pitched the bitchiest of B-fits about not allowing her son to read it, we offered an alternative to kids whose parents put their foot down and said no, but embarked on a 6-month campaign to get the school shut down unless we pull the book from curriculum for everyone. She disenrolled her son, threatened to sue us for the cost of sending him to an expensive private school, and called every parent in the school to try to get them to do the same. When she didn't have any success with that, she went to the local news and told them what was going on. What resulted was a flattering news story that reported our high test scores and innovative approach to learning. We're a charter school. I should mention that she didn't read the book. That last sentence is kind of redundant. Clearly someone that stupid can't even read to begin with. Alrighty, I have a few. I worked at Whole Foods, and that is ground zero for lunatic parents. There was a nutritionist and her mom that didn't want anything scanned because of the radiation. One lady was going on and on about how her son was corn-free, egg-free, dairy-free, and soy-free because that's what her chiropractor told her to do. I wanted to apologize to that kid so bad. When I worked at a cooking store, like Williams Sonoma, I had a lady come in with her tween-age kids trying to find glass baking dishes because metal is bad for you. I suggested silicone, and she said that was worse, so I suggested parchment paper, but she already used that. I had a hard time holding back the massive smile when I told her that parchment has silicone in it. Every time she would go off on something her kids would just roll their eyes. It's so frustrating because it makes the parents with children who actually are allergic to metal look like total loons. Work at a college. One mother rewrote a course syllabus so it would better suit her daughter's learning needs and sent it to the faculty member. Didn't see it personally, but a few years ago there was an article in my local newspaper about a mother cleaning the vegetables she was cooking for her family in bleach. Didn't realize she was doing anything wrong until one of her children nearly died. What I don't get here is that mom was perfectly happy with other children getting killed by the supposedly lethal radiation. Surely if she was so confident it was toxic she would have nobly saved the whole class by getting them out of there. But I guess she believes Wi-Fi is toxic, so logic should not be expected. Overprotective parents are usually incredibly selfish. I was not allowed to walk to school by myself even though it was literally 1 block away from my house because my mom said I would get raped. I was in junior high. I was never allowed to be unattended and was not allowed to go to friends' houses because my parents did not trust other parents. This extended all the way through high school until I started acting out and they sent me to a lockdown mental health treatment facility. My childhood was painfully lonely, to say the least. I was volunteering for this thing 2 years ago where we help freshmen haul their crap, mostly tampons and televisions, into the dorms. One mom came at the end of the day and flipped her crap because her daughter's roommates already divided up the space. She was the last to get there, and, oh yes, because her daughter didn't get the dorm with the swimming pool. Yes, her daughter had to change dorms because it was too dang hard to walk to the 2 buildings in a 50-foot radius to use the swimming pool. Her daughter was really chill, though. Let's hope she stays that way. Pro tip for younger Redditors. If you're going to bring your parents with you into an admissions interview for a graduate program, it won't hurt your chances of getting in, but it will make you the laughingstock of the admissions department for the day. My brother is an admissions counselor at a major American university for one of their graduate schools. He told me that it's a not uncommon thing these days for helicopter parents to attend their children's admissions interviews with them. These are people in their 20s taking their parents with them to admissions interviews for graduate school. My jaw dropped when I heard this. We know them as umbrella parents because they cover you from everything. Poncho parents are more extreme. They're the parents that won't allow computer access without them right there. Put huge restrictions on TV, G or PG. Kids like 16. Won't allow any video games, etc. Anyways, a poncho parent I know managed to keep her 16-year-old son under the delusion that girls are gross and have cuties. Joke's on her. I bet he's gay. My cousin has a helicopter mom. Very controlling and dominant. Kate never got to think for herself. Never had to learn discipline, financial or personal. She never had to. Her mom did it all for her. When Kate finally got into university and was away from her mother for the first time in her life, Kate went completely off the rails since to all extents she was an 18-year-old with the maturity of an 8-year-old. She would struggle to fill out basic paperwork and forms for class, since she'd had no experience of it. Worst of all was that she had no experience of the opposite sex, since she'd been sheltered all her life, and so she got taken advantage of frequently. What was even more stupid was that her mom still to this day does not see where she went wrong. She can't realize, or admit, that she weakened her child by removing life opportunities that strengthen a personality. I was in Catholic elementary school when Harry Potter came out. All the parents were up in arms about it. My mom got me a copy for Christmas and told me to keep it on the DL so we wouldn't get harassed. One of the nuns read it and reported back that it was awesome and had a great message and we could all read it, but then the parents flipped out on her. She got her revenge by teaching us fractions with platform 9. 3/4. You go, Sister Elizabeth. In high school I was friends with this girl we'll call Judy. Judy's mom was really strict, overprotective, and she could never go anywhere with us. And when she did she'd inevitably end up grounded. She could never hang out, and she wasn't allowed to have friends over very often. Once when I was at her house she got grounded for yelling at the dog. This led to a rebellion where Judy just stopped doing anything her mom told her. She started drinking heavily whenever she could, and she also smoked weed and did whatever pills or drugs people had. We always had to babysit her if she came out with us. This went on for a few months and she met this guy. We'll call him Tom. He was about 25 and the kind of dude that's every parent's worst fear. Judy came from a good upper middle class family. Her dad was a dentist, that sort of thing. Tom was a 25-year-old burnout, and he was on house arrest when Judy met him. It was love at first sight for her. Even though we all tried to talk her out of it, she started hanging out at Tom's house anytime she could. She'd skip school to go over there, sneak out of the house at night, that sort of thing. Well, it's no surprise what happened next. Judy got pregnant. She was 8 months along at our high school graduation and married Tom and had the baby shortly thereafter. Moral of the story: don't be a ridiculously strict parent, because your child will rebel and bad things will happen. P.S. The same exact thing happened to Judy's sisters when they got older. Sad stuff. A regular pain in the butt at the restaurant I worked at made her 10 or 11-year-old son use the women's restroom with her. I asked why, and she literally whispered pedophiles. Our bathroom is a 15x15 feet room with one toilet and one urinal. If your son manages to get molested, but doesn't scream for help, I can only assume he set the whole thing up. I wish I had seen this thread earlier, but here goes. I'm a preschool teacher for ages 3-4 years old. One day, one of my girls, fake name, Abby, is playing with, fake name, Becky's security blanket during free time. Becky wants her blanket back, so she asks Abby to get off. Abby refuses, so Becky pulls the blanket from under her and Abby cries. I tell Abby that she needs to listen to what Becky is saying and respect her friend's belongings. I also tell Becky that next time, instead of pulling the blanket from under Abby, she should just come tell a teacher. Maybe 5 minutes later, while I'm passing out snack, Abby flips into a crazy rage and runs towards Becky, tackles her and takes a huge bite out of her shoe. Plastic literally came off. I pull Abby off and try as calmly as I can to ask her why the heck she attacked Becky. Basically, it was revenge for getting her in trouble and taking the blanket away from her. Now here's the mother part. I write an incident report telling both parents what happened and, of course, I put Abby in the thinking chair for such an outrageous attack and call her mom, leaving a message and whatnot. But the next day, Abby's mom comes in and finds the child that got bitten, Becky, and tells her that if she hadn't yanked the blanket from out under Abby, maybe she wouldn't have attacked you. Of course, I asked the parent to leave immediately and to not speak to the children, that Abby was the one who attacked out of spite, and that her child's reaction was not an appropriate one that can be excused in my classroom. The mom got so mad at me for defending Becky, a 3-year-old, that she reported me to my supervisor for being unprofessional. I still have my job, but mom withdrew her child. But seriously? What the fricking frick? Until I moved out at 18, I was not allowed to be anywhere unsupervised except home. No hanging out at the mall. No going to friends' houses without my parents talking to their parents to verify supervision first. Could not wear shorts, even in 100+ degree weather. Could not wear tank tops. Could not swear or say pee off or oh my god. Could not paint my nails. Could not date. Was not allowed to get mad at my parents. And was frequently warned that if I went by myself to get the mail, I might get raped or kidnapped. I lived alone off campus my first year of college. I spent most of it huddled on my kitchen floor crying, absolutely terrified of everything because they did not raise me to be capable of existing in the real world. I'm pretty okay now. I just don't trust anyone because I was raised to be paranoid. Therapy. Being overbearing can have some serious effects on a kid. I popped out first. My dad wanted a son and made me his little tomboy. Camping, fishing, rafting, eating dirt, playing in mud, falling and getting cuts and scrapes. That was my childhood. I never got along with my mom because she wanted to put me in dresses and hairbows and make me act girly. When my little brother was born, my mother sunk her talons into him. She was really overprotective, never letting him get dirty, sanitizing everything he touched, teaching him to be terrified of strangers and all that. Lo and behold, I never get sick. My brother is constantly falling ill, has a phobia of homeless people, and is incredibly shy and nervous when talking to other people. Thanks, Mom. I teach first grade. I have a kid that is still figuring out the whole potty situation. His dad texts me last week and says Billy is having trouble wiping himself. If you could help him wipe when he goes, I'll make it worth your while. What the frick? No, I will not wipe your kid's butt. I do not get paid enough for this crap. You can make it worth my while by teaching your kid to wipe his own fricking butt. I worked at a summer camp, and a mom insisted that her kid sleep on a certain bunk because of its alignment with the Earth's magnetic field. When I got my new laptop, I was showing it off to my grandparents. and my grandma told me she might like to get one. But first she had to scan it with her radiation meter to make sure it was safe. So she pulled out a pocket radiation meter and held it off of various parts of the laptop before deciding that she couldn't use my computer because it was too dangerous. I went from 4th 12th grade being homeschooled. Around the 6th grade area my mom thought it was a good idea for my sister, also homeschooled, and I to go to some sort of homeschool event in Stone Mountain, GA. Very conservative, Christian area. Also where the second KKK was formed. Tile. What the heck? It was a day off of sitting around the house and there was some cool stuff at Stone Mountain. So we went, and it was probably one of the strangest experiences of my life. All the kids had this sort of glazed over look on their faces. I quickly found out why. Most of the kids I talked to were on some sort of ADHD medication. That was the saddest part looking back on it. While the few lucky unmedicated ones of us were off at the playground, most of these kids just sat around looking at the ground with their mothers immediately beside them. But anyway, back on track with the story. I eventually found another kid who played soccer, and he seemed pretty normal, or so I thought. So we spent some time kicking the ball around. Both of us seemed pretty content on wasting time until it was time to go. Then, his mother came along. Cooper. Milky's face went bright red and I was completely perplexed. What the frick are Milky's? His mother promptly strolled up in the exact same freaking outfit as the kid, glared at me, and then produced a bottle, as in a freaking formula bottle, from her butt. I crap you not. She reached inside the back of her pants and pulled out this bottle. She then proceeded to say nice warm Milky's for my little boy, at which point I promptly turned around, found my mom and sister and straight up told them if we weren't leaving I would just wait by the car. Apparently, they had seen some weird crap too and agreed to leave. We then went to Popeyes and ate chicken while telling stories of these strange people. I was terrified. TLDR. Mom of an 11-12-year-old kid, wearing the same exact outfit as him, pulled a bottle of warm milk from her butt and told him it was time for Milky's. Thought she was going to start breastfeeding him. The family I work for are helicopter parents. The mom turns off all the electricity at night so they do not get radiation while they're sleeping. I'm wondering why the electricity isn't off during the day. I mean, they are exposed to radiation just as much, right? Certain toys and candy are banned because they have dye in them. The mom still breastfeeds her 5-year-old son. He whips them out all the time, in public, in front of strangers, etc. He calls them Milky's, and he knows that it's not appropriate and is extremely creepy about it. I have so many stories from this family, it's ridiculous. My friend's mom is a nurse. She works a day shift. Even though they live in the middle of town, she still sends her daughter to my house because she's afraid someone might break in and rape her. I'm not complaining or anything, because I get to hang out with my friend 5 days a week. But I seriously don't think a 17-year-old girl needs babysitting. It's not like our town has a high crime rate or anything, and everybody knows everyone. This is a sad story, but it shows the absolute ridiculousness of overparenting. When I was 12, 9 years ago, a good friend of mine lived across the street from a family with 2 young boys. They were always extremely overprotective. The mother stood outside while her kids played. They were 10 and 9, and as long as I could remember weren't even allowed to cross the street alone. Finally the oldest was allowed to walk across the street to play with a friend. The first day he walked out into the street and was struck by an oncoming car and died immediately. The parents had always held their hands while they crossed the street and never taught them the rules to cross, like looking both ways. It's terrible some of these parents don't teach their kids but try to do everything for them. Gosh, looking both ways seems so obvious to me. I hope I get a manual of raising kids of otherwise obvious things to not overlook while raising them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.